Close one eye.
Close one eye. Hello and welcome. We are preparing for class at the moment. Today is Tuesday, September 5th. We're going to be talking about not September, it's October 5th. We're going to be talking about different tribes, but while we are getting ready for class, the kids in the classroom are playing Flamingo, a game that you have to stand on one leg. And while they play, for the next minute or so, I can see some wincing around the room, so I know that they're working really hard at balancing. They're also working really hard at being quiet. Today you're going to need your social studies book, but that's it, because we're going to talk about our research assignment and start thinking about which tribe that we want to do our presentation. Joey and Max, you guys can work on yours together, because in my class, I have kids doing this in partners. So I'm going to talk with you about that in just a second. Okay, class, you have about one more minute. Colton's out. Oh, we have some very talented balancers in this room. Okay, let's go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, too many winners. Mariah will have to play again later, and we'll pick up where we left off later on. Guys, can you please open your textbook to where we left off? Here, page 18. Page 18, and in your oh, you know what? I lied. We're gonna need our social studies notebook too. Social studies notebook. We left off here. I do not. You can look at your table if you happen to bring it yesterday. Not right now, hon. Okay.
I remember what page.
Okay. If you can hear me, put a hand on your head. If you can hear me, put a finger on your nose. Don't put it up your nose. That's gross. Just on your nose. Thank you. Okay, cross your arms so you can hear me. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we looked at these pictures on page 18 and 19 yesterday, and today we're just going to fill in this timeline. So in the year 250, we had looked at this green, lush forest yesterday, and we saw the Maya artifact on that same page. And so in the year 250, we're going to write down the Maya cities and temples were built in central Mexico. So if you end up studying about the Maya and the Olmec are some of the most ancient tribes of people that we will study. There were people that existed across the world earlier times than these, but these are some of the earliest people we have evidence of that we are going to study, okay, in this class. The Maya and the Olmec were some of the oldest cultures that we will study in our class. Okay, I'm going to go kind of quickly here, Kane, so if you're not writing, you might fall behind.
It's blurry.
It's blurry? Oh, no. Thank you for telling me. I can maybe zoom it in just a little bit, too. How's that?
Still blurry. No, it's not. That is. Okay.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, so year 250 is one of the earliest times we'll look at. Okay, and on page 18, the next picture showed this American Southwest, and we talked about the Four Corners area. We talked about how it is kind of desert region. I'm sorry, I realized my camera wasn't on. So the next one is the year 1200. And in the year 1200, that is when the Navajo people settled in the American Southwest. If you are curious about the Navajo people, there were other tribes also in the American Southwest, the Diné. There were cliff dwellers as well. There were the Pueblo people as well. So if I'm saying any of these words and you have heard of them before, they would be the in the American Southwest. Okay, then we're going to jump to 1300. In 1300, we talked about a big city along the Mississippi banks, the Mississippi River. Does anyone remember the name of that city that we talked about? It's close to Chicago, Illinois. It doesn't exist anymore, but the ruins are still there. Parts of the ruins are still there. Yeah, Cahokia. Cahokia. It's hard name to say. Okay, so the Mississippian people abandoned their city in the year 1300. The Mississippian people, I also put an arrow down here to Cahokia. That was the name of the city. The Mississippian people were called the Mound Builders. And we talked about how they built mounds for burials.
I've seen them on TV.
Yes, and you may have there's a documentary on YouTube that I saw last year about the burial mounds. That's right. That's right. So if you're curious about that, the mound builders or the Mississippian people, that might be something that you might want to research and tell us about. Yes, Chase?
I'm going to.
Yeah, I'm not going to move this. I'm not going to move it. I'll keep it up for a little bit. Okay, so we have the year 250, the Maya and the Olmec, the 1200s, the Navajo people. We also had the Diné, I'm going to say it wrong, I'm sure, and Pueblo people, Mississippian people in the year 1300. And then the last one that we're going to write down is 1451. So we go from year 250 to 1451. So we span like 1200 years. We span a lot of history. Okay, over this time. So we're not going to talk about every little thing that happened because there isn't written record of everything that happened at this time in history. But the things that we do know, we're going to kind of talk real general terms because over 1200 years, a lot of things happen over 1200 years, right?
We can't see it.
Okay, in 1451, the Iroquois, can you say Iroquois? Iroquois adopt their own constitution. The Iroquois live on the east coast of the United States, which, of course, at this time is not the United States. Okay, the name United States didn't exist, but the mountains were there, the rivers were there, the land and the trees were growing, people lived here. And so in 1451, the Iroquois people, they come up with a way of ruling themselves. They adopt their own constitution. And some of what the Iroquois did actually found its way into, kind of influenced decision makers, the founding fathers of what the America that we live in today. Our founding fathers used a lot of different references to try to come up with the perfect plan for the United States and what they believed in. They looked at a lot of different things. And the Iroquois had their own version of a constitution. Okay? So this is the timeline we're looking at in our book. We previewed some of the tribes yesterday. So let's open our books back up here And guys, I can leave my notebook up here. If I went a little too fast, you need to come copy it. I'll leave it on my desk. I believe we had already talked about the Olmec and the Maya and temples. Yes, we previewed those, right? We talked about the Pueblos and the peoples who were cliff dwellers. They built their house in the sand or in the soft sandstone. We talked about the mound builders of the Mississippi Valley. And we just were getting into the Pacific Northwest, what was this a picture of right here?
So they're going whale fishing.
It's a whale. Yeah, they were going whaling. They you know what? They had a really interesting relationship with whales. They still do to this day. The people that live in the Pacific Northwest and some of the tribes have moved farther north.
What they do is I'm pretty sure what they do is they like put a net around it, and then sometimes the whale just like pulls them around for a long time.
I have no idea how they hunt them, but they also honor them because the whale spirit is very important to their way of life. So even though they hunt the whales and they use the whale fat, they use the whale bones, they use every part of it, they also honor this spirit. So whales are very, very, very important to the Tlingit people. I believe it was the picture on page 29 looks like this. There's a whale up here. So we have the Inuit, the Tlingit people, and there were other tribes here too that lived along the coast. But the Inuit and the Tlingit, if you end up studying those tribes, you're going to be talking about probably whaling. The Tlingit people, Lainey, not right now. The Tlingit people were also very famous for this. Do you see this picture here on page 29? It's a totem pole. It's a totem pole. And in fact, we might even draw our own totem poles. The totem poles often were carved as a way of identifying where a family lived. So their carvings could be on a totem pole or it could be on their doorway. And based on the pictures on the door, you could tell what family lived there. So we're going to look at the Tlingit people. What else do we have? People of the American Southwest, Pueblos and Adobe. And here's a map on page 33 with the Apache and the Hopi and the Navajo and the Comanche people. Okay. The Navajo people, and I think, did we get to this page? Look on page 34. That's a home. That's a house. It kind of looks like Star Wars. This is called a Hogan.
I want to live in it.
Okay. It kind of, yeah, me too, Ryder. It kind of looks like a fort. Yeah. And then, of course, probably the Native Americans that we're probably most familiar with, because this is the area Minnesota would fall under, is the American Plains Indians. The American Plains Indians, if we look at page 37, this would include the Lakota, the Crow, Mandan people, Pawnee. Now, in Minnesota, we're in this purple area. We also have Ojibwa here, don't we? Yep. The Ojibwa people originally came from the east. And they were told by a vision, they were told that they should keep traveling until they found a place where food grew on water. Does anyone know what that food that grows on water is? That is all over the area we live. It's near the lake that I live on too. On the lake that I live on. What food grows on water? Riley?
I want to say it's algae, but
It's not algae, although algae does grow on lakes, but that's not what I'm looking for.
Seaweed.
It's not seaweed.
fish.
Not fish.
Wild rice.
It's wild rice. Yeah. So the Ojibwa people who live in our area, right up. Do you know the word for wild rice, Ryder? It's Monoman or Manuman. And we have a town called Monoman just north of us, don't we? Yeah. Yeah. So they were part of the Native American tribes that ended up settling here eventually, too. Okay, we have life on the plains. And then we have the Eastern Woodlands people on the East Coast. And we have lots of different pictures here. A canoe, we've got a longhouse, different kinds of homes people lived in. Page 41, land rich in forests. And And the people of that area were the one tribe was called the Creek. There was another tribe called the Iroquois that were when we put the Iroquois on our timeline. There were other tribes as well, but these are some of the larger ones, the main ones that we'll discover. Okay, so you are going to use your textbook as a resource. So we're going to keep our textbooks out on our desk because whatever tribe you get, you are going to use information from your textbook, writer, no thank you, to make a slideshow. Okay, so what do you mean, Mrs. Stewie? What are we going to have to do? Okay, I'm picking your partners. Not yet. What you're going to do, I'm going to zoom this in a little bit. You're going to do a slideshow. Now, I think you've already made a slideshow for Mrs. Pipik in writing, haven't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, first slide. Colton, please listen. First slide is a title slide. So on the first slide, you're going to have the name of your tribe. You're going to, maybe the tribe might have a different name for their people. So you include that on the title slide and the general location. So for example, if I had the Lakota tribes, okay, Lakota is a Great Plains group. So I would say lived in the Great Plains. Slide 2, what did they live in? Their housing. Did they live in teepees? Did they live in longhouses? Did they live in hogans or pueblos? Okay, you're going to do some research about where your people lived. And if you can find a picture, I can help you with this. You might take a picture, snap a picture out of your textbook, or you might Google search a picture, and I'll help you with that. Tell me about the houses. What were they made out of? Were houses that the Maya and the Olmec lived in the tropics, or not tropics, sorry, in the rainforest. Tropical region, right? Rainforest. Did their houses look the same as people that lived in the desert?
No.
No, they were made of different material because different material was available. Slide 3. What tools, weapons, and clothing were your people known for using? Remember, did people this long ago, 1,000 years ago, 1,200 years ago, did they have guns?
No.
Not yet.
Bows.
Okay, they maybe used bows and arrows. They maybe used spears. They maybe made nets like Lainey talked about. Okay, so there's maybe, hands down, Lainey, we're not talking right now. Remember, there's no metal, explosive guns, or horses in this area yet. There were ponies in the Great Plains, probably, I believe. There were also different animals that you could ride in the mountains, perhaps, possibly, but not horses. Horses came over with the Columbian Exchange and were originally from China. We'll talk about that later on this year. Slide 4. Can you tell me anything about who was in charge? Sometimes it's a government leader, like a chief. Sometimes it's a religious leader. What did they believe in? Did they have traditions that you can tell us about? What did they make or trade, or how they didn't have money like we did, but you were still rich in goods. Okay? And some tribes in Mexico, they did have gold and would trade gold and different precious stones, metals. Or no, not metals, but precious stones and precious minerals. Slide 5, please include a map. Chase. You might choose to take a picture of a map in your book, or maybe a Google slide. And slide 6. Is there anything else that's interesting that you can tell us about? What were your people known for? Okay, it might be something having to do with where they lived. It might be a talent they had. It might be a lot of different, many different ideas. Okay, so you're going to create a slideshow with 6 slides. Each slide is pretty specific. You're going to use your textbook as a resource. You're also going to get, you and your partner are going to get a pamphlet from me. The pamphlet has a map on it. Okay. And we might do some activities with this over the next couple of days as well. They also have They have more information than we're going to use, actually. Lots of different information. So very first page has to do with the Maya and the Olmec. Okay, so you can, if you have the Maya, you might read this paragraph, look at the map, you might use some information here when you make your slide. You might flip through and read about other tribes as well. Aztec, Inuit, the Tlingit. Can you guys say Tlingit? Yeah, that's a hard one to say. Tlingit. The Dine, or Dine, I'm not sure how to pronounce it correctly, but it's Dine or Navajo. Okay, what else is in the packet here? We got Plains Indians and Mound Builders in this packet, and Eastern Woodlands people. So you might get some information out of your textbook. You might get some information out of this pamphlet, or you can also do a little Google search. But remember that it is early history. Let me show you one other place to get information. So you can use your textbook, use your pamphlet. How many of you remember how to get to Mrs. Dewey's website? Ooh, some of you, wonderful. Good. Okay, so I'm going to come over here to a brand new page. And we start at the Roosevelt Elementary. You guys are familiar with this page? And if we go over to parent links, we go to 5th grade Google site. This should look familiar, right? Okay. It says, welcome back to school. And if I scroll down, we can go to math, science, and social. What kind of class are we in right now? Social. So we'll go to the social study, social studies website. And we are in Unit 1, Early Americans. It's hard to read there, but it's there. Social Studies, Unit 1, Early Americans. I'm going to click on that. Nice. And look at all there is resources right here. So I can click on any of these. Let's go to Ducksters. Is that a silly name? And what if I have the Great Plains in, let's say Native Americans. I'm not sure. Sometimes it is termed Indians, and we'll talk about how Indians was actually an incorrect term, but it's a term that some tribes really, or some people prefer Indian over Native American. So sometimes you'll write in Indian, sometimes Native Americans. Okay, and we can scroll down here, and we got Native American history for kids, tribes and region, Native American history for kids, Apache and Indian art. Now, notice that these Native Americans are on horses. So these pictures are probably from a time much later. We want to go earlier. Yeah, we want to go earlier. So 1,000 years ago, and Plains ponies perhaps, but if it looks like, Arabian horses, they were not there at that time. Here's some more information about the teepee. Here's a specific, the Sioux Nation tribe from the Great Plains, information from a history site on the Cheyenne, the Blackfoot. Okay, so you can do a little search in here, and the Ducksters is a pretty good website that is been checked out by other teachers and is pretty reliable source for you as well. Okay, where did I get that from again? I got it from Roosevelt. Then where? 5th grade Google Sites, which brings you here. Then I click on SS website, and we're in Unit 1. And there are resources here. You can click on any of them and type in your tribe. Okay? So for today, first, I'm going to put you with a partner. I'm going to assign you partners. Then we're going to pick what tribes we are interested in studying. You and your partner are going to talk about it, and we'll sign up for tribes. You and your partner are going to get a packet to share. I don't have enough packets for every person, but you and your partner can have a packet. And the rest of the week, we're going to work on building our Google slideshow. Okay, with information about your tribe. I would love to start presenting Monday. So today's Tuesday. That gives you the rest of today. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So 3 full days the rest of the week is going to be building your slideshow, doing research about your tribe, building your slideshow, and you get to be the expert. You will present to the class. We'll take notes on your presentation, and then we'll go from there. Okay, sound good? All right, I'm going to stop recording now so that I can assign my partners, and we can pick tribes to research, and I will check in with you later on in the week. See you later, alligators. Bye-bye.